The future of YouTube, is it really here to stay? In his thought-provoking book, Click Here to Save Everything, the author, Azov, highlights a common misconception we often make when discussing the internet. He argues that we tend to view the internet, with a capital I, as a permanent and unchanging entity, and this applies to platforms like YouTube as well. Azov believes we make several mistakes in our understanding of the internet, but today, let's focus on one particular assumption, the belief that the internet is here to stay and will forever impact our lives in profound ways. We often explicitly state this assumption by saying things like, the internet has permanently changed the way we do business, education, or even govern ourselves. Sometimes, it's more subtly implied, as in an article discussing the closure of libraries, where the author might casually mention that people now get their information from the internet, rendering libraries obsolete. This failure of our collective imagination to consider the internet's potential transience is intriguing. The internet is no longer seen as a contingent, temporary phenomenon, instead, it's treated as a fixed, permanent reality. It's almost as if we've assigned the internet an ontological status, as if it's an inherent part of the universe's fabric. Azov finds this concerning for several reasons. One key issue is the way people sometimes talk about the internet as if it's incompatible with certain ideals, like democracy or privacy. This implies that the internet has an inherent nature, a logic, and a purpose that we must accept and adapt to. The belief that the internet possesses an inherent nature, a logic, and a teleological purpose leads us to think that its nature is unfolding before our eyes, and we can only stand back and watch. We assume the internet will take care of itself and us, even if our privacy disappears in the process. It's as if we're saying, this is what the internet gods intended all along. But Azov challenges this notion. He argues that the internet, as a singular entity with a capital I, is not permanent. It's contingent, it exists within a specific time and context. There was a time before the internet, and just as we remember that time, we should acknowledge that there might be a time after it as well. By recognizing the internet's contingency, we open ourselves to understanding that its nature is not fixed. It can be changed, and it can be used for different purposes. The idea that the internet is a static, monolithic, and unstoppable force greatly benefits the enormous companies that profit from it. For instance, the narrative that libraries are closing because people get all their information from the internet overlooks the fact that libraries are often closed due to funding cuts. Once we reject the notion of the unstoppable internet, we can ask questions like, why is the funding being cut, and where is that money going instead? Similarly, YouTube's seemingly unstoppable monopoly on online video content greatly benefits its bottom line. The fact that changes to the platform, copyright strikes, and algorithmic adjustments are imposed from the top down, without consultation with content creators, further serves YouTube's interests. The current largest online video platform in the world is not accountable to the creators who drive its profits. It's to their advantage for us to accept the status quo and believe that this is just the way it is and always will be. But Azov encourages us to imagine a different future, one where we have the power to shape and change the internet to better serve our needs and ideals. So, let's start that conversation and explore the possibilities. Let's take a moment to envision a scenario where YouTube comes to an end, and explore the potential outcomes that could arise from such a situation. There are several possibilities that come to mind regarding how YouTube might face its decline. For instance, we could see a gradual decrease in its popularity, leading to a situation where more advertisers withdraw their support. This could create an environment where it becomes increasingly challenging for content creators to earn a living on the platform. The phenomenon known as the apocalypse could worsen, resulting in a more desperate approach from the remaining advertisers. Instead of the current 5-second skip option for ads, we might find ourselves facing 10-second ads that are unskippable, making the viewing experience more frustrating. Imagine a scenario similar to the current state of news media, where opening a news article in your browser reveals that half of the screen is taken up by advertisements and other distractions. This could drive many creators away from YouTube, as they find it increasingly obnoxious and unprofitable, leading them to seek alternative platforms. Consequently, YouTube might transform into a space primarily utilized by large media corporations to distribute music videos and movie trailers. Additionally, regulatory changes could emerge, particularly in response to controversies like the YouTube Kids incident. New laws might mandate increased human oversight over content creation, making it difficult for Google to maintain YouTube's profitability. There's also the possibility of technical failures, such as a significant bug that could erase all videos, reminiscent of the Y2K scare, or a major data breach that compromises user information. Perhaps a combination of these factors could contribute to a decline in YouTube's viability. One day, we might wake up to the shocking news that Google has decided to sell YouTube. This sale could be to a major media conglomerate, such as Time Warner, reminiscent of the acquisition of MySpace years ago. Such a decision would likely be made without any prior consultation or notice to the public, akin to receiving a decree from above. The new media company could choose to either shut down YouTube, continue its operation, or integrate it into another platform. Alternatively, Google might retain some control but merge YouTube into a new service, like Google++, diminishing its identity as a standalone platform. Over time, the dynamics of a free market tend to favor monopolies, as larger companies acquire their competitors, leading to a concentration of wealth and power in fewer hands. This is evident in various industries, where a handful of companies dominate distribution, such as the food industry in my country, where just a few corporations manage the majority of food distribution. Similarly, around 90% of news and media consumed in the United States is owned by a mere 6 companies. If left unchecked, a free market can lead to an increasing concentration of power, which raises the possibility that YouTube could eventually be absorbed by one of these large media entities. In the end, it might even be acquired by someone like Hank Green, transforming it into yet another entity under centralized control. What if YouTube's future didn't belong to another billionaire or corporate giant? Picture this: instead of a traditional sale, the platform could be acquired by its creators themselves, artists, filmmakers, educators, and other content makers forming a collective union. Imagine a cooperative model where decisions aren't dictated by shareholders or advertisers, but by the community that fuels the platform. In this scenario, creators would democratically manage everything: the algorithm that shapes visibility, the rules around monetization and copyright claims, and even the freedom to host unconventional content, whether that's experimental video art, investigative journalism, or politically challenging material. If the collective chose to prioritize creative freedom over advertiser-friendly policies, they could vote to do so, even if it meant reshaping the platform into a space where mainstream brands hesitate to engage. This vision challenges the top-down control we're used to, where sudden policy changes or profit-driven mandates can disrupt creators' livelihoods overnight. While this idea might sound far-fetched, it invites us to rethink how platforms could operate if designed for collective benefit rather than corporate profit. It also highlights how seemingly rigid systems, whether social media, governments, or economic structures, are more flexible than they appear. Envisioning alternatives helps us question, what if we rebuilt these systems ourselves? How might they better serve communities? Support independent creators. Visit patreon.com/philosophytube to contribute monthly, or paypal.me/philosophytube for one-time donations. Every bit helps keep this work alive.